Thanks, guys. You're looking at Canadian national team coach Holger Osiek as this game is 20 minutes old now, still no score. Canada and Mexico quarterfinal action of the Gold Cup from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego. Jerry Dobson here along with Bob Leonarduzzi. And so far, Bob, the Mexicans have been unable to penetrate that solid wall of red that Canada keeps putting up, and it's been a fairly even game.
Well, the biggest indicator is that Craig Forrest has not had a save to make after 20 minutes against the Mexican national team. So the Canadians are doing a good job defensively of thwarting the Mexican attacks. And at the same time, when they're in possession, we've seen some good attacks down the right by Jeff Clark. And what we can do more of, or what the Canadian team can try to do more of, is get Clark in down the right and also look to get Brennan in down the left.
You're looking at what might be an inadvertent handball infraction on Jason DeVos there that went uncalled, and play continues. Again, the winner of this game will go on to the semifinals and face Trinidad and Tobago, who defeated Costa Rica earlier today. The other semifinal will be Colombia against Peru, and the final will take place next Sunday in the Los Angeles Coliseum.
Jerry, we have the same personnel on the field that started the last game. There is a difference in the way they've lined up. Last game it was 4-4-2, and it appeared in the second half that there was a shift towards a 3-5-2. Canada started with the 3-5-2 today, and actually they look more comfortable playing that system than they did playing 4-4-2.
So it's the same lineup as what faced South Korea, so let's recap that for you. Craig Forrest, of course, is in goal. The defensive line is Mark Watson, Tony Menezes in the middle, and Jason DeVos. The midfield is comprised of Jeff Clark wide right, basically, Jim Brennan wide left, and in the middle, David Zauza and Richard Hastings. And in front of them slightly is Paul Stalteri, who's sort of a roving midfielder, and he's supporting up front Carlo Corazon and Paul Pescasolido.
And Richard Hastings in that midfield role has done a good job, actually, of stifling the Mexicans, and at the same time he's also been able to join the attack, which provides more players, provides more ammunition for both Corazon and Pescasolido up front.
Once again, Mexico missing one of their top players, Luis Hernandez, who injured his leg in the Trinidad game and has not returned.
Canada have had one corner kick prior to this set play, and we're very unlucky. Jason DeVos did get on the end of it. We see him there again, looking to get himself in at the far post.
Jim Brennan getting ahead on that one, but it went away undamaged. Now, there was a good scoring chance for Canada a little earlier. A good run by Jeff Clark down the right side.
Jeff Clark does a good job, gets his head up, can see Carlo Corazon at the far post. Carlo, I don't think, expected it to clear the Mexican defender's head. Could have actually pulled it down, so it was a good initial opportunity for Canada.
That play happened at about the 15-minute mark. Now we're nearly 25 minutes into this game from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego. The crowd not as large as many had anticipated here. It's rather small, in fact, but it's almost exclusively cheering for Mexico, as you might expect with this game being held in Southern California. Here's Clark for Canada.
Clark and Zauza have been alternating playing on that right-hand side, but it appears in the early going of this game that Jeff Clark seems quite comfortable in that position. Jim Brennan, whenever he's got the ball on the left in this game, has looked dangerous. So I think that's a key for Canada. If you can use the width and get Clark in down the right, and equally important is Brennan down the left, I think that's going to generate some chances for Canada.
Stalteri sending it all the way back to Forrest. Corazon with a header, looking for Pescasolido up front. Didn't happen. Mexico very well organized and very tricky on offense. Although we've seen in the early part of this game, Bob, they do spread themselves wide and through the length of the field and almost dare the other team to take advantage of what might be considered a porous defense.
Well, they do push men forward, and we heard Paul Pescasolido say before the game that will be one of the keys to Canada's attack, in trying to catch Mexico when they're pushing people forward on the counterattack. Defensively, Canada are doing everything right. They're holding their positions at the back. Both Brennan and Clark are sitting back in on the left and the right flank, and there's really nowhere for Mexico to go. We've seen Mexico try to break the Canadians down with some give and goes, Canada being very disciplined and staying with their runners.
Suarez, number 2 there. You can see the veteran, 31. He's wearing the captain's armband for Mexico. Solid defender. Clark heads that on, but Mexico come back now. Taken away by David Zauza. Pescasolido, Zauza, and he's fouled.
This will provide another opportunity for Jason DeVos to come up from the back, Mark Watson as well, and try and get a good ball floated to the far post. David Zauza does well there to get his toe in and just poke it ahead of the Mexican defender who has to foul him. Brennan comes across from the left to obviously whip this ball in swinging with some pace. Jason DeVos trying to lose his man.
And the keeper for Mexico, Oscar Perez, comes out to knock that one out of harm's way.
And that was a great ball in from Jim Brennan. The keeper can't come out and catch it comfortably. He has to parry it away.
Sent back for Forrest. One of the continuing themes in this tournament from the Canadian point of view is a lack of respect. And when you talk to CSA officials in San Diego this week, as we have a look at Pescasolido, slow to recover on this one, Canadian officials have been very critical of the official book program that's been put out because it has denigrated the Canadian team and said they have no chance of going through to the next round. Things like that. They're very poor up front, can't score goals, and they've taken great offense to that, and that has provided them with some impetus to do what they can here against Mexico.
Wow, the best answer to that is what they've done thus far. Although in both games they perhaps were outplayed, in particular against Costa Rica, they've gotten stronger with each match, and then today they looked full value for the 0-0 draw at this point.
Here's Clark again, sending it forward for Pescasolido. He can't get on to the end of that one. Pescasolido and Corazon, number 9, up front. Corazon with both goals for Canada against Costa Rica. Suarez for Mexico.
And Canada's adopting simply to fall back almost into their own half and close the field down, say to the Mexicans, you can have the ball back there, but we're going to make it difficult for you when you venture into our half, and that's what they've done thus far.
Number 7 you saw there was Ramon Ramirez. One player to watch. Number 4, he just had the ball there a moment ago, Rafael Marquez. He's just 21 years old, scored a great goal against Trinidad and Tobago, and they say this guy, while he's a defender, can play up front and just about play anywhere on the field. Shot there knocked away by Menezes. Mexico will mount another attack now. Half an hour gone, just about. First half, Canada-Mexico, quarterfinals Gold Cup. Suarez. Lots of room.
Oh, Mexico beginning to push even more players forward. We saw Suarez there, who normally is a holding center back, and he's actually coming up the middle. So once again, as long as Canada can stay solid at the back and in midfield, that's going to provide opportunity for that counterattack. And let's face it, it's not a question of Canada going and attacking Mexico the way that Mexico attacks them. They really have to look to try and catch Mexico on the counterattack, and that's how they're going to get the success.
Mexico slowly organizing this one now. Corazon watching Ramirez. Suarez again. There's Marquez. Stalteri now for Canada. Deflected off Ortiz, number 22. Pardon me, number 11. Ortiz just turning 22 yesterday.
Well, the Mexicans, if they were playing at home in Azteca Stadium and playing as they are right now, not creating many chances, they would be hearing the cat calls from the Mexican crowd. I think the transformation deported Mexicans who are now living in the United States are just happy to see their Mexican team, so they may be taking it a little easier on them.
Brennan now, once again, will take this one. Still available in the Mexican penalty area for a moment, but it's Mexico's ball here.
And that's an area where you really don't want to commit a foul. Here you see Mark Watson going up, a little nudge in the back, perhaps a little unlucky to get called for the foul, but when you've got those crossing opportunities and you send players forward, you don't want to let the other team off the hook.
Here it is in Canada's zone now, and this could be dangerous, but it's cleared away effectively by Clark.
And that was a good example of Jeff Clark working that right flank. If he's not attacking, you're going to see him back in that area, stifling the wide attacks of the Mexicans. And similarly, Jim Brennan will be doing the same down the left. You only hope that they don't get that fatigued, that when they get the ball and go forward, that you hope they've got something left.
A formidable task for Canada here against Mexico, who won this tournament in 93, 96, 98. They have not been beaten in this competition since 1993 at all.
And there was a great example by Menezes of calm, composed defending. A semi-dangerous ball played through, and he had the presence of mind to know that the ball had the pace on it and simply let it run out for a goal kick.
Greg Forrest, who will take on the big share of the workload when he gets back to West Ham United as the regular keeper there. Shaka Hislop has a broken leg, so Forrest will take over for the time being.
And how fortunes have changed for Craig Forrest. We see the challenge, Carlo Corzin going up
against Marquez, number 4.
And Marquez commits the foul. But back to Craig Forrest. He comes in. West Ham aren't too happy about him coming here. He comes in, plays an outstanding game against Costa Rica. Benefits from the misfortune of Shaka Hislop, broken leg, gets a couple of good games in and is able to go back and claim the starting position at West Ham.
That was Emilio Mora with that long ball looking for Francisco Palencia. Stalteri there to clear it away. With the absence of Hernandez, it appears as though Palencia and Mora will be working together up front.
And with all due respect to Palencia and Mora, neither of them have the pace that Hernandez does, and they sorely miss Hernandez, as we've seen in the first half an hour of this game.
The last time these two teams played was a World Cup qualifier in 1997. Only Craig Forrest, Mark Watson, and Carlo Corzin started in that game. Those are the only 3 who are on the field today. And in fact, Corzin scored one of the goals in a 2-2 tie.
That was a game that we were winning 2-1 with a little under 2 minutes to go, and Ramon Ramirez, who's playing for the Mexicans today, got the equalizer for Mexico, which actually officially put them through the World Cup France 98.
Mexico pushing forward here now. Ramon Ramirez in a shot and a goal. A goal for Mexico right there on that shot by Ramon Ramirez.
And Ramon Ramirez normally stands on his right foot. I've very rarely seen him kick the ball with his right foot, but a great bit of individual skill, and he buries it past Craig Forrest. And Ramon Ramirez, remember, is a left fullback, so he's ventured a long way forward.
Well, there's 2 or 3 of these guys on the Mexican team who seem to play wherever they seem to want to play at the time, wherever the ball is, and right there, it's Ramirez.
3 Canadian defenders around him, and he manages to squeeze in between them and hit it in at the near post against Craig Forrest. And that's the first shot that Mexico have had on goal. Ramirez gets it in tight quarters, and maybe the Canadian defenders were thinking, let's force him onto his right foot. Jason DeVos just a little unlucky not to get a last-minute tackle in.
And so when one more look here at the goal by Ramon Ramirez, the 30-year-old who has given Mexico a 1-0 lead here in the first half.
Certainly Canada had enough defenders back. They just none of them really took the initiative and shut Ramirez down on the edge of the box when he had his back to goal.
All right, now we'll see how Canada react to this, because you had to think they were hoping they could keep Mexico scoreless at least through the first half. And well, it hasn't happened.
I don't think that, well, obviously they would be happy. They would have been happy with a 0-0 tie, but I don't think they would have been intent on playing for that from the opening whistle. You'd be tempting fate if you were to do that. And as you say, now they're going to have to raise their game a little bit, try to come back and get the equalizer.
And there's a shot from David Zauza that didn't miss by a whole lot from long range.
Good move by Paul Pescasolido, spinning and turning the Mexican defender and laying it nicely into the path of David Zauza. A little ambitious to shoot from that distance, but in the end, not that far off target.
Perez might have been there, but the shot had good pace on it as Mexico come back now. This is Suarez.
I don't think that Canada are going to alter their game plan this early in the match. 9 minutes to go before the half ends. I think they're going to just try to continue to deny the Mexicans. And then as the match wears on, if they stay a goal down, they're going to have to start pushing a few players farther forward than they have done.
Suarez again. Sends a long one in. Palencia can't get to the end of that one before it goes past the end line.
And in Mexico's first game against Trinidad and Tobago, where they won quite comfortably 4-0, having seen that game, certainly the Mexicans will give you opportunities to get goals. And the 4-0 scoreline perhaps flattered Mexico a little bit, and Trinidad had their fair share of chances, which should augur well for Canada.
Canada has beaten Mexico just twice in 20 matches all time. 13 losses, 5 draws. They've allowed a whopping 51 goals in those 20 games while scoring 12. Just the one so far here in San Diego. Marquez. He's a tricky one.
And of those goals, 8 of them came in one game in Mexico City, and I was the coach, and I can tell you that that was one of the longest days of my life. We were 5-0 down at the half, and all I said to our players at halftime was, let's just try and keep it respectable. 5 was bad enough, and in the end it was 8.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up, but you did, so.
Well, if I'm going to be critical at certain times of this Canadian team, then I've certainly got to acknowledge the fact that I've not had a lot of success against the Mexicans.
A lot of teams have not had a lot of success against this team, certainly not in CONCACAF. Here's Suarez.
Certainly Mexico, from as far back as I can remember, are perennial qualifiers from the CONCACAF zone. And in the last couple of World Cups, certainly in the last World Cup, they got to the quarterfinals, and Germany beat them 2-1 in a very, very close game.
Mexico controlling in the offensive zone. This is Ramirez, the goal scorer. Lofting one in. Cleared away by Menezes. Brennan. Losing it there, fighting against Higuereda. Marquez went up with, I think that was Corazon, who came down hard as Stalteri tries to make a go of it. But Suarez, who's really the quarterback, defensively broke that one up, and Corazon is still down.
And Suarez is the quarterback. From as far back as I can remember, certainly in the time that I was coaching, he was the Mexican center back, and he does call the shots in defense, and as we've seen on the odd occasion, he also gets involved in the attack.
And as you can see, Corazon still has not got up. It looks as though he's clutching his groin or lower abdomen area. Oh, he got a foot right there, and you don't need to be told where that was if you're looking.
Well, we know that he'll be back in the game, but that's certainly smarts. Alex McKechnie, the Canadian physio on the field. Alex McKechnie, actually, you see him there lifting Carlo Corazon up and telling him to get on with it. He's actually well known for his personal treatment of Shaquille O'Neal.
There's Luis Hernandez, the star striker for Mexico, who Well, he doesn't look like he's in any pain, and it looks like he's enjoying his role on the bench here today.
I think he was actually calling Carlo's name there, suggesting that he feels for him.
Well, Carlo looks like a man who just took one where you don't want to take one. And that's exactly what happened.
And although that looked intentional, I don't know if you could actually intend to do it the way that he did. The Mexican player was simply just propelling himself into the air, and Carlo Corazon happened to be in the wrong place.
Pescasolido. And one thing that Pescasolido has to watch is his temper, because we've seen that in the past with him.
Well, I think that Pescasolido on that occasion was discussing something with his central defenders and with his midfielders, and I think it was the service that he's been getting in. I don't quite know what he was saying to them, but he looked to be talking to his own team.
Dorado sent one deep in there, but the flag went up. That's offside. Approaching the end of the first half. A lively first half. Canada playing even with Mexico for the most part. Another look at this one, and it's offside, all right. Well, it is close.
Well, actually, when the ball was played, he may have been onside. It was very, very close.
Clark heading that one on, looking for Pescasolido.
That was a question of Pescasolido putting his head down. I would have thought that the Mexican defender had his foot too high in the air, and I thought Canada would get a free kick on that occasion.
Here comes Mexico. Valencia sends that one through, and there's another shot, and Forrest is there to make the save.
And that was a great Mexican attack. A little dummy by the eventual shooter, who continued his run, and the ball was played into his path. Got a great strike on goal. Craig Forrest comes up big, narrowing the angle, parrying the ball for a corner. Dummy run there, and carries his run on.
It's Torrado, number 5.
With a good strike on goal, and again, a great save by Craig Forrest. And that's what the Mexicans are good at. It looked like Torrado was going to collect it initially.
And the corner goes harmlessly to Craig Forrest.
And he let it run and then carried his run on into the box.
Torrado, one of several very young players in this team. He's just 20. They've got a few 20 and 21-year-olds, and then several veterans in their 30s to anchor this team.
Well, and a number of the younger players that you've just been mentioning, Canada's under-23 team will be facing a number of these players in Hershey when the Olympic qualifiers begin in late April.
Suarez again.
You can see Paul Pescasolido and Carlo Corazon 10 yards inside their own box.
Suarez again. This time he sends it to the far side after not getting it to work with Ramirez on the near side. Cabrera, 13, sends it in. Into the box. Richard Hastings taking his man down. I think that's Ortiz. Yes, number 11, Ortiz.
And Craig Forrest has a big frown on his face because he threw the ball out for a throw-in, thinking that Ortiz was injured and staying down. That was never a free kick. Simply got their legs caught up between one another. Craig Forrest collects the ball, throws it out for a throw-in, and Mexico have done the right thing and given it back to him.
Sportsmanship alive and well here at Qualcomm Stadium. Pescasolido going up and down, and that's a bit of a rough play there, along with Ignacio Hierro, another 21-year-old.
Paul Pescasolido having a little bit of a lash out after they tangled up on the ground.
Maybe fortunate
a
there.
Swing. Certainly nothing that would have hurt. Canadian fans will well remember something worse than that taking place in a World Cup qualifier against El Salvador in Vancouver that really put us behind the 8 ball. And that's something that Paul Pescasolido has had a problem with throughout his career, is that discipline. Although, from what they tell me, he doesn't seem to have that problem when he's playing in England.
Paul Pescasolido, 8 goals for Canada internationally from Scarborough, Ontario, 28 years old, playing at Fulham in the English First Division. Marquez, Suarez.
And at this stage of the game, Mexico really don't have that urgency to go forward and go for more goals. They've got the one they need, And unless they do something drastically wrong in the back, they're going to hang on to that. So now it's up to Canada to come out and try and engage the Mexicans closer to their own goal.
Here's Brennan. Stalteri. Brennan again. And that play can't get through a tough Mexican defense. Stalteri gives it up, and that's it. That is the halftime whistle, folks. And so Mexico get the goal. A fairly entertaining first half with lots of action both ways. A couple of scoring opportunities, and Mexico taking advantage of one of theirs and getting the only goal of the first half. And so, from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, at halftime, after 45 minutes in the quarter,
and get at them.
All right. This game has also been about, as we touched on earlier, about a lack of respect shown to the Canadian team in the official program for this tournament. And there's Holger Osiek, the Canadian coach, and you have to wonder if they're able to use that as motivation at all, because most people are saying here Canada had no chance to go through to the second round, and lo and behold, here they are in the second round.
Well, if I could speak to that, when in 1996, when we qualified for the final round of World Cup qualifying, and we won 5 and drew 1 in that process, we still didn't get any respect at that time, and we were ranked 40th in the world at that point, and it really didn't matter. I think soccer people look at Canada and they see us as subservient to the Americans. The American program's going very well. So I don't think it's anything that phases the players at this point.
Well, we will see what unfolds here in the second half as Canada getting set to continue this battle against Mexico. Heavy underdogs, of course. Canada having only won 2 games all time against Mexico in 20 games played, scoring 12 goals, allowing 51. And we are set and going here now. The teams have switched sides, of course. No substitutions at this point. Mexico leading 1-0, and Canada immediately on the attack.
And a great start, getting the ball out to Jim Brennan on the left. Unfortunately, not the greatest of crosses from Jim Brennan.
Winner of this game will advance to take on Trinidad and Tobago. That game will take place Thursday. The other semifinal between Colombia and Peru will take place Wednesday. And then the final is set for the Los Angeles Coliseum Sunday evening. A week from today. Mark Watson. Stalteri. Jeff Clark. Hierro from Mexico to Suarez. Back to the goalkeeper, Perez.
And Perez has obviously replaced Jorge Campos, who was well known for the colorful jerseys that he wore and was a very flamboyant goalkeeper. On occasion, actually was moved from the goalkeeping position up to center forward if things were going very well. And it wasn't a token move. He was actually very skilled at the attacking position.
Mexico slow to build here. Suarez. Ramirez. Ball in the Canadian penalty area, cleared away, but not completely out of danger. Into the box, Palencia, and that was from a pretty bad angle.
A great one-touch pass from the Mexican right flank into Palencia, who was well defended and could only generate a corner for the Mexican team.
Ramirez to take the penalty, or pardon me, the corner.
And look for the ball to be bent into the near post. We see David Zauza, who is zonally marking the near post, and it'll be up to him.
Swung in, Forrest went for it, but couldn't get a hand on it. I think it went for another corner.
And that's the danger of those types of crosses. They come in quick. Craig Forrest doesn't know whether he can get there. Similar type of cross.
He punched that one away, and Stalteri then continued on with it.
And that's why Ramirez will go all the way from his left back spot right over to the other side to take those corners, because of his ability to knock in swinging balls that create all sorts of problems for the goalkeeper and for the Canadian defense.
Watson to Menezes. Brennan for Jason DeVos. No, pardon me, that was Brennan on the far side with Hastings. DeVos hadn't moved up that far. Stalteri knocks it in. Park.
Is not happy with the official's call.
That might have been a handball there as well. Cool day in San Diego. Temperature around 15. Brennan takes a crack at that one, but it's right at the keeper, Perez.
Well, that's worth an effort. So the ball bobbled just in front of Perez. A little difficult to handle. Perez did well to get his whole body behind it, but certainly, again, worth an effort from that distance.
Ramirez. Clark knocked that one back for Watson. It's Richard Hastings.
And Palencia, very impressive at the start of this second half, putting a lot more pressure on the Canadian defenders, and it appears that the Mexicans have made an effort to actually push on and try and pressurize the Canadian defense. In the first half, they were quite comfortable to drop off, but this half they appear to be pushing on a lot further.
Corazon. He's got Mexicans all over him. And it's Mexico's ball. This is Marquez. Rafael Marquez.
Marquez is a player, as I mentioned earlier, that the Canadian Olympic team players that are playing for Canada here today will likely face when they attempt to qualify for the Sydney Olympics in April of this year.
Marquez is also, as we watch Suarez here, Marquez is the only Mexican playing in Europe, playing in France.
And of course, the last Mexican player to have a lot of success in Europe was Hugo Sanchez, who's long since retired, but he was very well known for having gone abroad and done well outside of Mexico.
This game has slowed down considerably since the first half, when there was plenty of action both ways in the first 15 or 20 minutes. Suarez again. Hierro. All the way to Forrest. There's DeVos.
You can see Suarez
this time.
Suarez will sit in behind the two marking defenders, and any balls that Carlo Corazon flicks on, more often than not, he's picking up the pieces there, and it's tough for Paul Pescasolido to try and read where the flick-ons are going at this point.
Marquez now. Is Mexico quite content to build this slowly, having the 1-0 lead. Suarez again. He's got it all the time.
And I think Mexico at this stage are probably feeling as though they can just hang on to it back there. They're a goal up, hoping that the Canadians will come out and engage them, which will give them more opportunity to attack the space that the Canadians are leaving.
Well, at some point, Canada has to do that.
Well, and I don't know whether it'll be this early. I can see that that Stalteri and Zauza are now starting to move farther forward from the middle of the park. So I don't know if Holger Osik at this stage would simply throw caution to the wind. I think he's going to probably just make sure they don't concede anymore, and then perhaps at the 70, 75 minute mark, look to throw caution to the wind and go for the equalizer, assuming they're a goal down at that point.
Here's Hierro. Back to Suarez. Those two have been playing catch much of the second half. Mexico now penetrating just a little bit. Palencia. That effort off the mark.
Palencia actually rushed his shot there. I think he was a little concerned that he was going to get tackled, and he snapped at it, and it wasn't a great effort, considering the position that he was shooting from. You see Palencia collect it, worried that he's going to get caught from behind and from the left, rushes his shot, and it harmlessly rolls by the post.
Richard Hastings doing well there against Alvaro Ortiz.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the benefits of being involved at this Gold Cup and going through to the quarterfinal. Look at the play of Richard Hastings, look at the play of Jeff Clark. Two players that, had everyone been fit, they probably wouldn't have played, but certainly they both come in and done very, very well, and that builds the qualifying squad for the upcoming World Cup qualifying games.
Tony Menezes with the run to Corazon, to Brennan. Sends it in front. Here's Corazon now trying to take a shot at this and couldn't control a bouncing ball, and that was a bit unfortunate, or he might have had a better effort at that.
Again, that opportunity coming from the cross of Jim Brennan. And as much as the Canadians can get the ball to Brennan, I think they will enjoy success from that. Good job of closing down by both Paul Pescasolido and Carlo Corazon.
Hierro and Perez, the keeper, with it back and forth there for a while. And now Marquez goes on the attack. Bad pass there, intercepted by Zauza. Then a bad pass made by Canada. Here's Ramirez. Zauza with a rough tackle and the foul.
Zauza doing a good job of getting back and getting goal side of Ramirez, but a little too aggressively pushing Ramirez off, and as a result giving up the free kick.
Ramirez to take this one off the wall. Corrado. Ramirez. Good work by Menezes.
And Ramirez, who starts off as a left back, but doesn't play there all that much, in that he's often joining the Mexican attack, and we saw her in the first half is quite comfortable in the opposition's box as he scored the Mexicans' only goal.
Watson here working on Mora, Emilio Mora. Corazon now. Stalteri. In for Zauza. Pescasolido back for Zauza. That was a little off the mark, and Zauza going in there hard on Perez. Goodness.
And I don't think there was any intent. I don't think he realized that Perez was going to spread himself that soon, and he caught him in the back. Well, he didn't actually catch him in the back. It rode up his back. But there was no malice intended in that challenge. It was just a very enthusiastic, exuberant Zauza trying to get on the end of Pescasolido's pass. And I think the Mexicans felt that way as well, because normally in a situation like that, they'd be all over you if you were abusing their keeper.
This is Hierro and Suarez. Content again to move the ball around without going forward, and Canada not trying to press the advantage here yet. The foul up there as Hastings, or pardon me, Jeff Clark knocked that one back, and Menezes was able to help Forrest.
It will be interesting to hear from Holger Osiek.
Clark now sends one across, and it's too far, but there it comes back in front, and Perez has to handle that one as Brennan was able to get a foot on it, but was unable to do too much with it.
And again, young Jeff Clark doing a good job down the right and swinging a good cross into the box that Jim Brennan just couldn't get enough on. But that's an encouraging attack for Canada. But it'll be interesting to hear from Holger Osiek as far as the style of play, because Canada looked much more comfortable today than they did in either of the previous two games. playing the 3-5-2 versus the 4-4-2 that they played for the most part in games against Costa Rica and South Korea.
Suarez now. Cross in front, headed away by Menezes. And cleared by Clark. Manuel Lapuente, Mexican coach. Now Zauza comes away. Stalteri, back for Watson to Clark. Clark was looking for Pescasolido there, but didn't have room along the sideline.
It's very uncharacteristic of Jeff Clark. Although he's a very young player, he's always quite comfortable on the ball and for the most part always keeps his team in possession.
Marquez. Suarez. Mexico still on the attack. DeVos then knocks it out for Stalteri. He's got Corazon. Now Clark. Across this one goes. Pescasolido was there, couldn't do anything with it, and Mexico come back. It's Higuera. Now with plenty of room is Ramirez. Forrest has to come way out to knock that one.
In Mexico, although Canada haven't launched that many attacks, after Canada have attacked, Mexico seemed to make a concerted effort to get forward very quickly, trying to take advantage of the fact that Canadians have sent players forward and there's more space to operate in.
Foul there is by Torado. Here's Brennan. Scored that great goal against Jamaica back in September at Varsity Stadium in Toronto. A 1-0 victory for Canada. Stalteri now. For Pescasolido on the run. And Perez was out there to greet him.
And for the first time in 3 games, we've seen where Paul Pescasolido can be effective, getting in behind, down the side of the defense. Unfortunately, just couldn't get onto that.
Martin Nash, you got a glimpse of him on the sidelines getting ready to come into this game. Suarez.
Martin Nash is the type of player that can come into this game and make an impact offensively. He's certainly better known for his offensive skills than his defensive skills, and he's very comfortable on the ball, very comfortable going at players and committing them. So it'll be encouraging to see him get into this game and see what he can do to lift the Canadian attack.
That one out of Clark's reach. Martin Nash, number 21. Coming on for Canada, and it looks as though he's getting set to replace David Zauza. So out comes Zauza, and in comes Martin Nash. Now earlier, if you were watching CTV Sports, you saw the Dallas Mavericks beat the Toronto Raptors, and Marty Nash's brother Steve plays for the Dallas Mavericks, of course. And so today, if you're from the Nash family, it's a double treat. You get to watch both of them play in one day.
And what a great family as well. Very supportive of one another. Steve Nash is Martin Nash's biggest supporter.
Nash scored both goals, his first international goals, by the way, in a 2-0 victory over Bermuda back in January. So Nash knows how to put the ball in the net.
And it appears that Nash has come on the right side of midfield, and Jeff Clark's moved into the center of midfield, which would make sense because although Marty Nash normally operates from the left, he's certainly quite capable on the right flank as well.
Back come Mexico again. Suarez, Hierro. A long offensive foray for Emilio Mora.
And Menezes
Goal
so
kick.
comfortable at the back. Again, coming across, seeing the danger, and simply getting his body in front of the Mexican player and just letting the ball roll out for a goal kick. He's a real quality defender.
Tony Menezes of Botafogo, Brazil. His club team. In Mexico again. Marquez. Canada back, that's Pescasolido chipping it back for Hastings. Stalteri fouled there.
And Nash's inclusion into the Canadian team at this point indicates that Canada are likely going to push more players forward. As I said, Martin Nash is not a defensive player. He's primarily an attacker, and that will be his job.
Corazon can't quite get to that one, but Stalteri does. Clark. Oh, Clark tried a back pass there for Nash and fooled himself on that one, and Mexico come back. Valencia. Ramirez. Far side. Valencia again, and Richard Hastings is there. Alvaro Ortiz, the man on the right side there for Mexico.
And Jeff Clark opting to try something a little fancy, as you indicated, and that indicates one thing. He's obviously feeling very confident with himself, but the other thing that it should indicate to him is he should always do it simple.
Corner kick comes out front. Over everybody to the far side. And Richard Hastings will let it go. It'll be a Canadian throw-in. Mark Watson, Oxford United, who's eligible to move at the end of this season. He'll be without a contract.
Mark Watson, throughout the 3 games at this Gold Cup, has demonstrated his qualities, a good, solid defender on the ball. He's not going to spray balls all over the field, but he's comfortable. He'll make the simple passes, but primarily he's a very, very solid individual defending.
Brennan, who runs the entire length of the field all day long. Stalteri. There's Menezes through the middle. Corazon. Clark. Looking for Pescasolido, who's fought off nicely by Marquez.
Well, Paul Pescasolido and Carlo Corazon up front have done a lot of running for Canada. Unfortunately for them, most of it has been in a defensive mode as opposed to attacking. But that's something that they or any other forwards who play for Canada are going to have to get used to. Canada are not going to be able to go in against countries that technically are perhaps better than them and play. They're going to have to do a good job of closing other teams down and looking to capitalize on the few chances that they do create.
Brennan for Canada right here. In it goes, but Perez comes out of his box to punch it away. Nash goes up for that one, and the result is Clark has it for Canada, and he's fouled.
Great bit of play by Jeff Clark, saving the ball from going out for a throw and getting up and then beating the Mexican player.
Clark has shown a lot here, and there's one amazing thing about his situation. He has no team.
No, and I would think that the 3 performances in the Gold Cup are certainly going to enhance his opportunities to, and I think his objective is to play somewhere in Europe. So this isn't going to hurt.
That's the unfortunate thing in Canada without a full pro league is there's the odd player who does not have a club team, and Jeff Clark is one of them. While most of these players play in Europe somewhere, or as in the case of Tony Menezes in Brazil, Jeff Clark is one of the few who is unattached. Here's Suarez. Figueiredo. Suarez.
Suarez has had a lot of the ball.
All the way back to Perez it goes. Marquez. Hierro. They are certainly killing the clock, aren't they?
Well, and they're probably suggesting that it's not up to them to chase the game. They're 1-0 up, and they're waiting for the Canadians to come out of the shell that they're in. And I would think that we're starting to get to that point in time where Canada will start to have to push more men forward. Otherwise, just be contented with the fact that they're going to lose 1-0. But I don't think that's in Holger Oshik's makeup to simply just be comfortable losing 1-0. I think he's going to know that there's not a lot of time left, and he's going to start to push a few more bodies forward.
Stalteri. Pescasolido. Martin Nash flicks it back. Gets it back.
In fact, I think I called that wrong. Martin Nash is actually playing in the middle of the park, and Jeff Clark is continuing to operate on the right flank.
Watson. Menezes. Far side, he was looking for Brennan, but that didn't happen. Hastings there was working on Ortiz. Brennan now for Canada. Just 20 minutes to go now. Getting towards that point where Canada will have to try and do something here if they're to get the equalizer. Mexico getting ready to make a change. Number 16 is Jose de Jesus Arellano. And he is into the game. Mexico obviously with all kinds of depth. So Arellano is in and Ortiz is out. If Canada goes on to lose this game, it will be their first loss in 9 games. And that goes all the way back to a closed-door loss to Saudi Arabia back in the summer. There's Marty Nash. Clark. Into the box. Taken down by Mexico. There's Corazon trying to get that one down. But Perez will beat him to the rebound.
Perez must have thought that that was a back pass. Otherwise, he would have picked the ball up in the box, but I guess he didn't want to take that chance.
Corazon, or pardon me, Stalteri. Brennan fouling Higuereta. If Mexico hangs on, they will play Trinidad and Tobago in the semifinal. They've already beaten them once in the round robin portion of the tournament.
When they beat them, both Hernandez and Abundis were playing in that match, and if they end up victorious in this game, they'll be well, they might be without those two. They'll certainly be without Abundis. Perhaps Hernandez has a chance of being fit.
DeVos now working there on Palencia.
And Jason DeVos will be familiar with Palencia, number 17. Palencia played in the Olympic qualifying tournament in Edmonton a few years back and was the leading scorer in that tournament.
Corazon tries to head that one on for Pescasolido, but Mexican defenders are there in numbers. Suarez, the captain.
How many times have we seen Suarez on the ball at the back, playing it side to side, and most of the time coming up the middle between Corazon and Pescasolido.
Ramirez. Mora. Goes back to Ramirez. to Suarez. Ramirez, as they edge their way forward. The header there and back in front and just wide. Palencia unable to convert that opportunity.
Nice job by Jason DeVos of getting back just in front of Palencia and not allowing Palencia essentially a tap-in. Jason DeVos recovered well just to get his foot in, and Palencia wasn't able to get his foot on it and convert that cross.
Martin Nash heads that one on for Pescasolido. The strong point is his pace and his ability to run, but he hasn't been able to do much of that, not with the ball at least. Mexico now back. Suarez again. Bad pass that time. Canada gobbles it up. Stalteri to Nash.
Nash doing a good job since coming on of spreading the play out.
Corzin sending that one across. Brennan looking for Pescasolido. Mexico now. Arellano. Mora. Ramirez. Great job of ball control by Mexico, and Canada doing a lot of running now.
Well, most of the possession that Mexico have had today has not really broken down the Canadian defense. And I think, again, Canada will be quite content to soak up the pressure. You're hearing the catcalls from the crowd. I don't know if that's directed towards the Mexicans or whether it's directed towards the Canadians for not coming out and playing.
Here's Ramirez. Challenged there by Stalteri. Clark now. Stalteri. Clark, who's played very well for Canada. Nash. Looking for Corazon, who's bumped off the ball.
Well, Canada, up to this point, have not had what you would say is a good goal-scoring opportunity. And Mexico, for the most part, have looked quite comfortable at the back. There's been a couple of crosses from the right and the left that have tested the Mexican defense.
And here they come now, and the shot goes in there. Not a very good effort, actually.
That was a poor cross.
That's by Arellano, the substitute.
I think he was half shooting, half crossing, and in the end he did neither, and it simply went out for, harmlessly out for a goal kick.
It was Bruce Twomley in the foreground of that shot, assisting Holger Osiek. Twomley also doubles as the Olympic team coach.
Bruce Twomley and the Canadian Soccer Association are going to have a problem come Olympic qualifying time, because players like Brennan and Stalteri and Jeff Clark will all be available to play, but and not necessarily in Clark's case, but certainly in the case of Brennan and Stalteri, they're both with European clubs, and those clubs are going to be very reluctant to release those players for Olympic qualifiers.
Well, I guess it's good that it is an Olympic year from Jeff Clark's point of view, because since he's unattached, he'll at least keep busy with Olympic qualifying coming up in March and April.
Well, but I do believe that a player like Jeff Clark at some point has to be playing club soccer, and I think he has realized that that certainly is the case, and whether if he doesn't attach himself to any clubs in Europe, ideally he'll be playing in the A-League until he does.
Canada now less than 15 minutes away from elimination here in the Gold Cup. They've already come farther than they ever have before, but this will be it. Canada will go no further if they cannot get the equalizer here. And you saw Jeff Clark go down heavily there, clutching at his ankle. Pardon me, Martin Nash.
Jason DeVos, in the latter stages of games that Canada has been down, he's also pushed forward and stayed forward. You see he's up in the attack now.
DeVos still there with Brennan. Brennan can't get it in front, but that'll go for a corner.
Look for Mark Watson to also get himself forward. at this late stage in the game with Canada looking for an equalizer.
Perez off his line to take that one down. And then, well, the camera cut just as he went to take a swing at that one. I think he just fell.
He fell. Menezes was close enough that the referee decided to give a free kick.
Hastings with some good work there.
Great tackle by Richard Hastings. Done a good job down that left flank.
Oh, he kicked Menezes. That's what happened.
There was no intent on Menezes' part. He was simply looking to get back.
Mexico again. Cabrera over for Mora. Watched by Watson. Mora gets a shot away. But it's over the net.
Again, I think that was an intent to cross. And a bad cross at that. Good work. Turning Watson inside out. But a little heavy on the cross. Not enough angle.
Here's Hastings. He strained his knee in training yesterday, but it was not serious enough to prevent him from starting this one. Osiek doesn't have many choices anyway with so many injuries. He's been barely able to put together an 18-man roster. Hierro runs into Menezes. Comes away with it. Solid work by Tony Menezes. Nash. He's got Brennan. Sends it across, and there's Corazon. But Perez came out to take away the angle. Perhaps the best opportunity of the second half right there with Corazon taking the shot.
Good ball across the face of the goal by Brennan. Corazon does well because it looks like it's going out for a goal kick. Does well to pull it back, and so too does Perez. Perez do well to come out and smother the attempted cross. And this is where Canada need the service to be good. Don't hang the ball up in the air, allowing the keeper to come for it, try and get a fast cross in. He hung it up in the air.
Mexico a little more quickly away with it this time. Arellano. Deflected to Menezes. Corazon. Stalteri. Bad move there by Stalteri, and Mexico takes over.
Stalteri's done a great job on the defensive side, but certainly on the attacking side, he's been guilty of giving the ball away far too much.
Arellano. Mora sends it back into the middle. Mexico getting in close here. Great little passes at the edge of the box, and they're not done yet. Right across the goal mouth it goes, in fact, before Forrest finally goes to pick it up.
And that's vintage Mexican attacking soccer. 2-1-2s in the box, resulting in a cross across the face of the goal.
Canada now less than 10 minutes away from elimination in the Gold Cup. Brennan. Stalteri. Losing it that time. Holger Osiek said he loved the way Stalteri played midfield in the friendly games in Bermuda and Trinidad and Tobago in January, but I think it is fair to say he has struggled here. There's a header and a goal for Canada!
And
this game is tied with less than 10 minutes to go, Canada and Mexico.
It looked like Carlo Corazon.
Oscar Perez stunned here in the late going. This entire crowd stunned here, and I think it was Corazon who came up there to tie this match for Canada.
Great ball from Martin Nash. And Carlo Corazon free in the box, nicely into the corner of the net, giving Perez no chance on that header.
And so Canada has 3 goals in this tournament. Carlo Corazon has every one of them.
And certainly Holger Osik is looking very good right now, having inserted Martin Nash into the game. He puts over a great cross that Carlo Corazon gets in between 3 Mexican defenders and finds the corner of the net.
So hang on to your hats, folks. We're not done yet. Canada and Mexico tied at 1. And now we'll see what the Mexicans do, because we both felt they've been hanging back, waiting for Canada to come to them.
And that's the first goal-scoring opportunity, aside from the half chance that Carlo Corazon had about 10 minutes ago, that Canada have had, and they've scored it.
A big surprise unfolding here in Qualcomm Stadium as Carlo Corazon has tied this quarterfinal match with Mexico with a header with less than 10 minutes to go.
And in suggesting that that was Canada's first goal-scoring opportunity, the Mexicans in this second half have not really had a chance. They've had plenty of useless possession, but really have not created a chance, have not broken down this Canadian defense. And the game plan that Canada had coming in was to soak up the pressure and counterattack. And right now, Holger Osik and the Canadians are looking like geniuses.
Remember now, in overtime, the golden goal rule applies. If it's still tied after 30 minutes, then it's the dreaded penalty kicks. And we saw what happened to the United States, making only 1 of 5.
There's only one team that's under pressure right now, and that's Mexico, because most of the people gave Canada no chance of being in the game at this stage of the game with 5 minutes to go. So the Mexicans are under pressure to produce something.
Well, certainly to hold Mexico to 1-1 through 85 minutes has to be completely satisfying. But here comes Mexico now, looking for the go-ahead goal. Oh, my goodness. Mexico looking for the call there inside the box.
And it's Ramon Ramirez again in the box. He just couldn't get the shot off.
And Canada about to make another substitution. Garrett Cush will be coming on for Paul Pescasolido. Cush, who won't give you a whole lot of fancy footwork up front, but he will get the balls down when they're sent to him. So on comes Garrett Cush in the final few minutes here of this one. Canada's second substitution of the game.
And look for Garrett Cush to use his physique, and if Canada can continue to get crosses into the box as they have done on the occasions when they've been down the right and the left-hand flanks, then that's the type of service that Cush will be looking for.
And Mexico making a substitution as well. Jose de Jesus Mendoza, number 19, is into the game. Hierro.
And with the score 1-1 now, Canada will be saying, you can keep the ball back there all you want. Now it's up to Mexico to take the initiative and try and do something they haven't done much of all day, and that's break the Canadian defense down. Aside from the goal, there was one other shot in the first half that Craig Forrest made a good save on. But other than that, most of it has been possession in areas that haven't hurt Canada.
Here comes Hastings. Long one in. There's Nash sending it back into the box, and Garrett Cush was there, just couldn't get a foot on it. And away comes Marquez for Mexico.
Canada are pushing players forward. Look at Martin Nash, who just crossed that ball from the right, making efforts to get back, and in the end winning it.
Here's Stalteri. Working on Marquez. Stalteri continues to struggle. Hierro for Mexico. Hierro again. Manuel Lapuente watching on rather anxiously.
Well, he's not sitting anymore. He's not.
They have his attention now if they didn't have it before. Free kick to Mexico from a bit of long range, but still a dangerous area. The outcome in doubt as we approach full time. 1-1 Canada-Mexico. Marquez, number 4, closest to the ball. There's the shot in, harmless.
The wall did their job. The ball went over top of the wall, but well wide, and Craig Forrest always looked comfortable on that shot.
Not very close at all on that one. Who would have thought this? 1-1, Canada, Mexico. If somehow Canada can pull this one out, they'll be in the semi-final against Trinidad and Tobago, a team that they can probably beat.
Well, they played in Trinidad a couple of months back. Granted, both teams were missing a few players, but the result was 0-0. So there's no question if they get beyond this game, it's not unreasonable to expect that they could get to the final.
Lots of soccer here still to be played, however, if we get past full time. A 30-minute overtime period, the golden goal rule in effect, and if it's still tied, penalty kicks. DeVos. Into the box, Cush. Trying to knock that one down. Comes back out. There's Corzin again. Brennan is chasing that one down. Canada coming on here as we approach 90 minutes. Hastings thought it was Canada's ball. It's not.
No,
oh, yes, it is. Pardon me. He just gave it to DeVos. Cush got a head on it, into the box, and Canada is very close to going ahead.
Well, there's no question that the Mexicans are having problems dealing with either the crosses or, on that occasion, the long throws in. And now with Garrett Cush's insertion into the game, it's going to be even more difficult for them to defend against the crossing.
There was no doubt that Mexico came into this game extremely confident. Whether they were overconfident and that has affected the outcome here, who knows? But the fact is, it's 1-1.
Well, I think if Mexico is guilty of anything, it's guilty of the fact that they sat back on their laurels, seemed quite content to have the one goal, and probably didn't think that Canada had it in them to come and get the equalizer. Canada have had the one chance, they've scored from it, and in this latter stages, it's fairly even up right now.
Hierro. Menezes there was in a little trouble, but recovered nicely. Stalteri. Cush. Cush again. Mexico with quite a few players forward now. Mendoza, the substitute, came on just moments ago. There's Watson. Cleared back in for Watson. We're into time added on. Overtime looming. Canada and Mexico.
Well, Craig Forrest is probably a little surprised. I'm sure he expected to be a lot more active in goal today than he has been.
Canada has not beaten Mexico in 10 years. It was May 13th, 1990, the last time Canada beat Mexico. 2-1 was the score there. And guess what, folks? We've played 90 minutes here, and this game is tied at 1. Canada, Mexico. Canada is 85th in the world rankings. That's going to change, folks. We're going to extra time here. Your thoughts on that, Bob?
Well, Canada, in terms of the way they played, it's textbook. They soaked up pressure, didn't get a lot of chances themselves, denied the Mexicans, and in the end, got a great goal, not necessarily on the counterattack, but on a great cross from Marty Nash from the left, and Carlo Corzin has continued his hot goal-scoring pace.
Well, speaking of Carlo Corzin, let's have another look at this. his third goal of the tournament. He has turned into a goal-scoring machine.
And the ball from Nash has got a lot of pace on it, and Carlo needs to get up and simply direct it towards the goal. Great cross in, over one Mexican defender, and Carlo Corazon in between two Mexican defenders to get a great finish.
Carlo Corazon now with 9 goals for Canada internationally, the 28-year-old from Vancouver.
And that's certainly not going to hurt his opportunities of moving on from Northampton Town, which I think he's made quite clear that he'd like to do at the end of this season. So his play in this Gold Cup is certainly going to help that cause.
All right, so now, first of all, what is Holger telling his guys right now?
He's going to be telling them just more of the same. The pressure is squarely on Mexico's shoulders now. Canada simply need to do what they've been doing up to now, just set up, allow the Mexicans the ball in areas where it's not going to hurt so they could just see the game out. Canada get a great equalizer. Now, again, the pressure is squarely on Mexico's shoulders. They need to raise their game right now, and I don't know whether they can.
We saw right away the effect that Martin Nash had on the game.
Cush is out there. As a defender, you know you're in a game when Garrett Cush is on the field.
What about from a fitness point of view? Canada had to play their first 2 games with only 1 day rest, and they had to travel and then come back to San Diego. So it's been a tougher schedule for Canada than Mexico, who haven't left San Diego the entire tournament, as we look again at Corazon's goal. So is there an advantage either way there in terms of the fitness?
No, I don't. At this point, I think the adrenaline will more than make up for the fact that they might be a little tired. But they had a nice break in between playing South Korea and this match. I don't think fatigue is going to play a factor. If anything, by the end of the game, the Canadians looked stronger than what the Mexicans did.
Well, that's a surprise for sure. The winner of this game, as we've said before, will face Trinidad and Tobago, as head coach Manuel Lapuente talks it over with his people and maybe gives it to them just a little bit for only being tied with Canada. The winner of this game plays Trinidad and Tobago. The other semifinal is set. It is Colombia and Peru, 2 invited teams to this tournament, both from South America, obviously. The semifinals will take place Wednesday and Thursday, and then the final, the Gold Cup Championship, will be played at the Los Angeles Coliseum a week from today. Richard Hastings, a bit of a knock to his knee in training, but he has played a full 90 minutes here and looks ready to play more as both teams go back onto the field. And so this is going to be fascinating stuff to see how this unfolds now.
Think about this. If the tournament organizers were upset with the fact that the host country, the United States, were eliminated, they'd be very, very upset if the Mexicans did not get beyond this Canadian team.
Well, officially, the United States are the home country, but unofficially, Mexico is basically the home country, so that won't be...
Bob, how you doing, guys? I never would have expected this result when we went down 1-0 early on. But Canada has certainly shown a lot of grit, certainly shown a lot of control, poise back defensively, and they've got a great shot at really stealing a win here in extra time.
Okay, the extra time is underway. Thanks a lot, Alf. Enjoy the rest of the game because there could be lots of football still to come as we get going here now with the extra time. 30 minutes to be followed by penalty kicks if it's still tied. Mexico slowly building once again. This is Marquez.
And the danger that faces the Mexicans is, obviously, they don't want this to go to penalty shots. They want to win this outright. So they are going to launch people into the attack, which is going to leave them exposed at the back for that counterattack.
Hierro knocking one in. Watson fighting there with Mora for that one. Watson doesn't like the decision.
And for Martin Nash, that would be a relatively new position that he's playing in the center of midfield.
Jeff Clark fighting off Hierro.
We've seen a lot of players slipping on the turf, and in that case, it cost Canada a corner. But there must have been some rain because the field does seem a little bit slick.
Well, there has been rain off and on in Southern California the last few days. Nothing heavy, I don't think, but there has been moisture, so it might be slick. That was a good-looking cross when it started out, but it didn't get all the way through, and it's knocked away. And here comes Martin Nash with lots of room, and he's got Garrett Cush, and he's also got Richard Hastings, and here comes Hastings, if he can get a shot at it, and he scores for Canada! Richard Hastings has won it for Canada, who are through to the semifinals. Do you believe it?
And Martin Nash with, again, The cross from the right found Richard Hastings, who had a great first touch and roofed it.
Unbelievable turn of events. Canada, unbeaten in 9, have just knocked off the 10th ranked country in the world. Oscar Perez is stupefied.
And so he should be. And let me suggest this. Not only have Canada won, but both goals were quality goals. Both resulted from Martin Nash's ability to find players, and certainly, again, from Holger Osik's point of view, and here we see Martin Nash with a great ball out to the left, and look at the first touch from Richard Hastings into his path, doesn't have to take another touch, up and into the roof of the net. Canada are on to the semifinals.
They can't play football in this country, you say? Ask the Mexicans that now after looking at this. Richard Hastings, a great shot on a great feed. My goodness. And so, the final score here today from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, Canada 2, Mexico 1. That's the truth. Back in a minute.